This person loves you in silence because this connection is sacred. Carl Jung. Close your eyes for just a moment, not for long, just long enough to feel the specific weight of what you've been carrying, because I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is someone. There has been someone. In your thoughts, in the quiet spaces between everything else, in that particular ache that shows up when you're not busy enough to ignore it. Someone you want and cannot fully have. Someone whose silence speaks louder than most people's words. Someone you keep returning to in your mind even when every rational part of you has made a very convincing argument for why you should stop. And maybe you've been told by a friend, by a podcast, by the sensible voice inside yourself that this is not healthy, that you should move on, that the fact that it's complicated means it's not right, that real love doesn't feel this difficult. But something in you doesn't believe that. Something in you keeps coming back to this connection as though it means something, as though it is trying to tell you something that you haven't quite been able to hear yet. I want to be the one who helps you hear it today. And I want to do that honestly, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort right now. I think you deserve the kind of truth that actually sets something free inside you, even if it asks something of you in return. Carl Jung wrote something that I have returned to again and again in my own understanding of love and longing and the hidden currents that move between people. He wrote that the most intense emotions point not outward toward their object, but inward toward the soul of the person experiencing them. What he meant, and this is the part I need you to really sit with, is that the most powerful thing happening in any experience of consuming love is not what is happening between you and the other person. It is what is happening inside you. That is not a small distinction. It is everything. Because right now, in this moment, there is a version of this story you've been telling yourself. And in that version, the central question is about him. What is he feeling? Whether he thinks about you, whether the connection is real, whether something will eventually shift, whether the timing will change, whether the obstacles between you will somehow resolve themselves, and the story will arrive at the place you've been quietly imagining. And I'm not here to tell you that version of the story is wrong, or that your feelings aren't real, or that the connection you sense between you isn't genuine. It may be all of those things. What I am here to do is offer you a different center of gravity, one that puts you, not him, at the middle of what matters most. Not because he doesn't matter, but because you matter more, and because the version of this experience that will actually transform your life is the one where you begin to understand what this longing is showing you about yourself. So, let's go there. Let's go somewhere most conversations about this kind of love are too afraid to go. Jung believed that romantic love, particularly the overwhelming, consuming, inexplicable kind, is one of the primary vehicles through which the unconscious mind tries to bring us into contact with our own unlived life. He used the word projection to describe this mechanism. When we fall deeply and almost irrationally for someone, what is often happening is that we have projected onto that person qualities that actually belong to our own interior life, qualities that we have not yet integrated, not yet owned, not yet permitted ourselves to fully embody. The man who seems to possess a freedom you long for, the quality of depth you sense in him that calls to something in you, the safety you feel in his presence even when the relationship itself is anything but safe. These are not simply things you see in him. These are things that exist in you as potential, as longing, as the unlived version of yourself that is trying to come forward. And the intensity of the attraction is often proportional to the distance between who you currently are and who you are being called to become. Let me say that again, because it is one of the most important things I know about love and desire, and the particular kind of longing that feels sacred even when it also feels impossible. The intensity of what you feel is a measure of the gap between your current life and your fuller life. The fire is not just about him. The fire is about you, about all of you, about the parts of you that are ready to be lived but haven't been yet. This is why these connections feel sacred, not because they are necessarily meant to become what we imagine them becoming, but because they are always, without exception, pointing us towards something real, something inside us that is trying to come home. Now, I want to talk about the silence. because I know that's part of what makes this feel so significant and so painful at the same time. The silence of someone who feels something but doesn't or can't act on it. The silence that is somehow louder than everything else. The silence that you read and reread, that you try to interpret, that you carry with you into ordinary moments where it has no business being. Jung wrote that what is not made conscious appears in our lives as fate, and I think this applies beautifully to the particular silence between two people who feel a connection they cannot fully resolve. Because the silence is not empty, the silence is full. It is full of everything that hasn't been said, hasn't been chosen, hasn't been faced directly. It is full of fear, his fear, possibly, but also, if we're being truly honest, yours, because I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it as honestly as you can, not for me, but for yourself. If this person, right now, in this moment, became fully available, no obstacles, no complications, no reasons why not, would you actually move toward them? Without hesitation, without fear, would you step fully into that visibility, that vulnerability, that real, unfiltered version of being chosen and choosing in return? Or is there a part of you, a quiet part, a part you don't look at directly, that finds something familiar in the space between you, something that, underneath the aching, feels strangely like safety? I ask this not to be confrontational. I ask because I have sat with enough women in enough conversations about exactly this kind of love to know that the longing for someone who cannot fully reach us is sometimes, not always, but sometimes, a way of experiencing the feeling of love without the risk of love. A way of holding the warmth of connection without the terrifying exposure of being fully known. The unavailability of the other person creates a particular kind of emotional experience that is genuinely intense and genuinely real. But that also keeps you, in a very specific way, protected. Because if he can't fully choose you right now, then you are never fully required to be chosen. You are never fully required to show up completely. You can live in the potential of this love, in the sacred ache of it, without ever having to test whether the real version of you, the unguarded version, the imperfect version, the version that needs things and feels afraid and sometimes gets it wrong, is lovable too. I want to be very gentle with this because I know it lands in tender territory, but I also want to be honest with you because soft reassurance is not what this moment is asking for. What this moment is asking for is the truth that actually frees something. And the truth is this: the love that transforms you is not the love that lives in the space between. It is the love that asks you to arrive fully, that requires your real self, not your ideal self, that holds you accountable to your own growth in ways that comfortable distance never will. The connection you feel, and I am not dismissing it, I am taking it completely seriously, is real. But it is real in the way that a fire is real when it is lit in front of you. The fire is genuine. The warmth is genuine. The light it casts is genuine. But a fire you stand in front of and a fire you carry inside you are different things. And what I want for you is the kind of love that you carry inside you. The kind that doesn't depend on whether he acts or doesn't act, chooses or doesn't choose, breaks through the silence or keeps it. The kind that belongs to you regardless. Now I want to talk about something that the concept of sacred connection actually means in Jungian psychology, because I think it has been misused in so many romantic contexts that the real meaning has been obscured. And the real meaning is so much more interesting and so much more useful than the way it usually gets presented. When Jung spoke about the sacred or the numinous in the context of human experience, he was pointing toward an encounter with something that feels larger than the ordinary self. Something that produces, as he described it, a feeling simultaneously of dread and of fascination, a sense of standing in the presence of something genuinely significant. And he believed these encounters, whether with a person, a dream, a creative vision, a moment of nature, were invitations from the deeper self, the self that lives below consciousness, to grow into a fuller expression of who we are, to develop capacities that have been dormant, to face truths that have been avoided, to become, in the Jungian word, more individuated, more whole. So, when a connection feels sacred, when it feels too significant to be ordinary, too powerful to be explained, too real to be dismissed, Jung would say, yes, take that seriously. Not because it means this person is your destiny, not because it means the obstacles will dissolve, not because it means the love is meant to become what you imagine, but because it means something inside you is being called forward, something real, something important, something that deserves your full attention, not directed at him, but directed inward. The sacred quality of this connection is not located in him. It is located in what he is awakening in you, and those are not the same place. Let me tell you what I believe is actually happening inside you through all of this. And I want you to feel this rather than just understand it intellectually, because the feeling is where the transformation actually lives. You are a woman who loves deeply. That is not a small thing. In a world that increasingly rewards emotional efficiency, that moves faster than feeling, that offers endless distraction from the discomfort of genuine intimacy, to love with this kind of depth and sincerity is genuinely rare. It is a capacity, an extraordinary human capacity, and it deserves to be honored as such rather than managed or minimized or redirected into something more convenient. But deep loving is not the same as loving wisely, and loving wisely is not the same as loving less. It means loving in a way that includes yourself in the circle of care, that holds your own well-being as seriously as you hold the feeling, that asks not just what does he need, not just what does this connection ask of me, but what does my own soul need to flourish? What kind of love will actually nourish the deepest parts of who I am? Because here is what I know about women who love the way you love. They are often so gifted at attending to the emotional reality of another person that they forget to attend to their own. They can feel into a man's hidden fear, his unspoken longing, his silent struggle, with an accuracy that is almost uncanny. And in that feeling into, they lose track of the thread that leads back to themselves. They become so present to his inner world that they become a little absent from their own. And the connection, even the genuinely meaningful, genuinely sacred connection, can become a place where you live in someone else's interior instead of your own. I want you to come back to your own interior, right now, in this moment, not away from him, not in rejection of what you feel, but deeper into yourself, with all of it, with the longing and the confusion and the ache and the beauty of caring this much about something. Bring it all the way in, into your own center, into your own life. And from that place, I want you to ask yourself the question that Jung believed was at the heart of every significant psychological encounter. The question that transforms experience from something that merely happens to you into something that actually makes you more of who you are. What is this asking me to become? Not what is this asking him to do? Not when will this resolve? Not how do I make him choose? But what is this asking me to become? Because every experience of profound love, including and especially the complicated, unresolved, silent ones, is trying to make you something. It is trying to develop in you a quality that your ordinary life has not yet called forward. And if you can identify what that quality is, if you can feel into what it is about this specific longing that is pointing you toward your own next step, then this experience, regardless of what he does or doesn't do, becomes something that belongs to you forever, something that makes you more fully yourself. Maybe this connection is asking you to become someone who speaks her truth even when it is uncomfortable. Maybe it is asking you to become someone who chooses her own peace over the familiar intensity of longing. Maybe it is asking you to become someone who trusts herself enough to walk toward what is genuinely available rather than waiting indefinitely for what is not. Or maybe, and this is possible too, it is asking you to be patient in a new way, a patient that is not passive, not waiting, not on hold, but actively becoming, growing into the woman who, when the moment arrives, will be ready to receive it fully. I don't know which of those is true for you, but you might. And that answer, your specific, particular, honest answer, is more valuable than any external sign, any reading of his behavior, any interpretation of his silence. Because the sacred truth of this connection is not about him. It has never been about him, not at the deepest level. At the deepest level, it has always been about the conversation your own soul is trying to have with you, about the parts of yourself that this intensity has illuminated. about the life that is waiting on the other side of your willingness to look clearly at what you most need and to choose in that direction, even when the choice is difficult, even when it asks you to let go of something beautiful in order to make room for something real. Jung believed that the human psyche always moves toward wholeness, not toward perfection, not toward happiness in the simple, uncomplicated sense, but toward wholeness, toward the integration of all the parts, the bright and the shadowed, the certain and the afraid, the loving and the self-protective. And that movement toward wholeness is not always comfortable. It is not always what we would have chosen consciously, but it is always, in the end, the direction of meaning. You are moving toward wholeness right now. Through this. Through the sitting with of something that cannot be quickly resolved. Through the willingness to stay present in the complexity rather than seeking the easy exit of either total pursuit or total shutdown. You are in the middle of something that is genuinely making you more of yourself. And the person who is made more of herself through love, who comes through the fire of genuine longing, not diminished but deepened, not broken but refined, not emptied but filled with a new understanding of what she is capable of feeling and surviving and choosing. That woman is ready for something real, for something that can hold the full weight of who she has become. Whether this specific connection becomes that or reveals that something else is meant for you, either way, you will arrive there. You're already arriving. And that is what is sacred here. Not the silence, not the longing, not the particular person who lit the match, but you, the woman who chose to feel this fully instead of going numb. The woman who is willing to look honestly at what this is asking of her, rather than simply waiting for the outside to change. The woman who is, right now, in this moment, doing the most profound work a human being can do, the work of becoming genuinely, completely, beautifully herself. That is the sacred thing. It has always been you. If something in what I've shared today moved you, if there was a moment where something clicked into a place inside you that had been slightly out of alignment, I want you to sit with it before you move on. Let it land. Let it become part of how you understand yourself today and the days ahead. And if you want to keep going deeper into this, into what our most complex emotional experiences are actually asking us to become, into how Jungian psychology illuminates the hidden patterns of love and longing and self-discovery, stay with me here. Because this is the conversation I am committed to having honestly, every single week. You came here today for a reason, and the reason, I believe, is not about him. The reason is you, and you are more than worth the attention.